Wish is an animated movie that is supposed to celebrate Disney's centennial anniversary. I might not have the most positive opinion about Disney as a company, but I always had a special place in my heart for their animation. And I really rooted for Wish to be great, or at the very least decent. But it just wasn't good, unfortunately. First of all, I must say that the story is pretty solid, the core idea of the story to be more precise. And it could potentially be a rather good movie. However, the awful script just ruined this film. The main villain, Magnifico, created a utopian place called Roses, on the island in the Mediterranean Sea, and became its king. He welcomes everyone, but everyone who wishes to live in Roses must give up their sacred wishes to Magnifico. Literally give up, as he has magical power to take people's wishes. The main character named Asha desires to be king's apprentice, but she learns the terrible truth about wishes and the king. Magnifico keeps people's wishes and only grants them to a select few who he considers decent enough. Everyone else, including Asha's 100-year-old grandfather, loses their wishes forever. Asha is baffled by such injustice, but she can't really do anything as the king has magic and nobody can realistically do anything against him. However, the night after Asha learns the truth, the star magically comes down from the sky. And so Asha realizes that she must stop the King Magnifico from stealing wishes and return those very wishes to people. That's the story in a nutshell. Wishes here represent people's dreams and aspirations that are very important to everyone. They are essential, and no one has a right to take those wishes away. It could be a very touching and inspiring story, but the script is just so underwhelming. 3 people wrote the script. We'll talk about reasons why scripts feel so unfinished and unsatisfying a little later. The very concept of everyone getting their wishes granted seems pretty questionable, to be honest. Yes, most people have admirable wishes, like inspiring others in case of Asha's grandfather, or voyaging across the world, but there might be some people who wish, to kill someone or to destroy an entire island. Magnifico created a super safe place for people who live there. For the most part, the movie actually proves that Magnifico is kinda right in his belief that wishes should not be granted to everyone. Somewhere in the middle, writers kind of realized that they made a sympathetic villain instead of the villain that we should hate and despise. And so, from an egocentric but very much sane person, Magnifico turns completely crazy and comically evil. Disney had a perfect opportunity to have a very morally complex antagonist. King Magnifico could genuinely believe that he's doing the right thing by depriving people of wishes and therefore keeping them safe and sound in Roses. He could genuinely believe that wishes would only make people suffer. It doesn't really seem like citizens are doing too bad without their wishes. On the contrary, Roses seems like a pretty good place to live. Again, it's not the idea that everyone deserves their wishes as bad, just the writing fails to make the right point. Speaking of morally complex antagonists, Thanos from the MCU is the most obvious example that comes to mind first. He wants to erase half of the universe because he genuinely believes that this way he can save the universe. His intentions are not malicious or evil. He doesn't wish to conquer the universe. King Magnifico could have been written the same way. Imagine this version of the story. Magnifico believes his position is right, but then Asha shows him that he was wrong by taking wishes away. Asha shows Magnifico how important wishes are to people and how much happier they can make people. Magnifico realizes his mistake and returns wishes to people. That could be a fantastic story and a great lesson. Instead, Magnifico takes wishes just because he is secretly a bad guy, even though everyone admires him. Feeling threatened, Magnifico becomes a laughably evil caricature. His wife Queen Amaya betrays him too easily. The ending of the movie is honestly baffling. Amaya genuinely loves Magnifico and wishes to save him from the influence of dark magic that she believes corrupts him. After being defeated, Magnifico gets stuck in his own magical stuff. And Amaya, the loving wife, just decides to keep him inside the stuff. Moreover, she orders to hang the stuff in a dark dungeon, so Magnifico will be trapped in the darkness. How did Amaya come from saving Magnifico from bad magic to sentencing him to being in the dark forever? I often joke that My Little Pony redeems almost all of its villains, but Disney seems to be doing the opposite thing. What can it teach the young kids? If someone did a bad thing, he or she deserves eternal punishment and no second chance? Magnifico didn't even do anything too evil, obviously he couldn't, it's a PG movie after all. Honestly speaking, Wish and Ruby Gilman, released earlier this year, have a lot in common. Very interesting conceptually, but terribly written movies. Both stories lack nuances, both Magnifico and Chelsea are evil because the movies need them to be evil. What happened to complex characters? I'd rather take the Moana or Encanto approach with no villains at all. Now let's talk about the main character, Asha. If you wish your main protagonist to be quirky and adorable, you need the movie to be genuinely funny for this to work. And Wish is absolutely not funny whatsoever. Most scenes with Asha are extremely awkward. This is just my opinion, Disney writers don't have to agree with me of course, but characters' definitive features should be important to the story at least in some way. Let's compare Asha to the character that started this adorable trend. I'm talking about Rapunzel. Rapunzel's awkwardness comes from the fact that she'd been stuck in her tower for 18 years. For 18 long years she only talked to Mother Gothel. And considering that Gothel could just disappear for days, leaving Rapunzel all alone, Rapunzel's only company most of the time was her chameleon Pascal. Rapunzel literally doesn't know how to talk to people, how to communicate, as she never talked to anyone apart from Gothel. Thus her extreme awkwardness and quirkiness. But at the end Rapunzel changes, seeing the world and falling in love makes her mature. Even her look changes as she loses her golden long hair, which symbolizes her dependency on Mother Gothel. Rapunzel is only adorable at the beginning of the story. And she goes through actual changes important to the plot. She grows up and becomes an adult. Asha is adorable just because she is adorable. This trait plays no role in the actual plot. This adorable trend started with Rapunzel, but it was propelled by Anna from Frozen. Tangled was the first truly successful Disney cartoon in over a decade. It practically started a new era of Disney animation. Disney attempted to replicate its success by making Anna as similar to Rapunzel as possible. And the second attempt was even more successful than the first one. Thus, Disney concluded that they found that magical thing that can make their cartoons successful. Tangled and Frozen were successful because they were genuine, carefully written, and resonated with a lot of people. Not to mention the sense of novelty in the early and mid-2010s. Just making characters copies of Rapunzel without an adequate story or character development doesn't work. I mentioned already that this movie is not funny at all, and this is a problem. There is a talking goat named Valentino, voiced by Alan Tudyk, and he has about 2 moderately funny jokes throughout the entire movie. In my theater where I watched the movie there were about 50 people, and about 15 kids. Almost nobody laughed. I don't like cute comic relief sidekicks, if I'm being honest, and I really dislike Olaf from Frozen, but I must admit that he did have some hilarious moments to compensate for his obnoxiousness. Valentino has nothing, it's just a character with no purpose. The same can be said about Asha's friends. They are not funny either. One of them with supposedly witty remarks is just plain irritating. Animated family-friendly movies don't need to be hilarious. They can be serious, and they can have a serious and profound conversation with audiences, especially with younger audiences. Take Ghibli movies for example, like My Neighbor Totoro, or Disney's own The Lion King. These days it feels like every single interaction between the characters is some kind of banter, which can be very annoying if done poorly. At this point Disney movies should be considered sitcoms. Even shows like Friends probably have fewer jokes per minute than Wish or The Marvels. When I was a kid I watched Don't Bluff, The Land Before Time. The movie was very dark and spoke to me about death and grief, like I was a conscious and mature enough person. I loved that movie as a kid. I didn't think it was boring because it wasn't funny enough, and I still think it was a great cartoon. The best parts of Wish are the music scenes. The soundtrack is generally okay, but this Wish and its reprise are simply fantastic songs in my opinion. Or maybe I'm just biased because I love I Want type of songs. I thought this wish was extremely catchy, inspiring, and powerfully performed by Ariana DeBose. Even though I heard that song many times before watching the movie, I got literal chills watching the scene in the theater. When a movie delivers, it delivers unabashedly. The animation was not good, unfortunately. As I understand, Disney wished to simultaneously jump on a Spider-Verse bandwagon and to pay homage to their previous works, both traditional and digitally animated. You would assume that animation should look spectacular to celebrate 100 years of Disney, but the result just looks mediocre at best. Disney completely misunderstood modern animation once again. Movies like Spider-Verse or recent TMNT use this 2.5D style to create absolutely visually stunning animation that wouldn't have been possible in just standard 3D or even 2D. Watching Spider-Verse or TMNT or Mitchells vs. the Machines is like seeing comic book literally coming to life and becoming tangible on screen. These movies use animation to the fullest. It is impossible to imagine mutant mayhem in 3D. Wish could as well be just generic 3D and nothing would have changed honestly. It would have looked almost exactly the same, but with different shading. Disney should have made a fully 2D movie instead. Would have attracted much more attention. All in all, the big problem of Disney right now is that the company wishes to have as much content and as much money as possible. Back in the day, they used to give writers more time to finish scripts, or rework what they already created, if needed. Sometimes you spend weeks or even months writing something, then read it and realize that you wish to alter certain moments, or even entire plot lines because you changed your opinion or the ending changed your perception of a character. Or because of the way the story ends, some elements in the middle don't make sense anymore. Back in the day being just 10 years ago, not 8 years ago, you could tell Disney that your script isn't exactly ready, you aren't satisfied, and you wish to have more time to work. And Disney would grant your wish and allow you to work for several more months to get the result that satisfies you. Disney always cared about money, obviously. However, in the past they also used to care about actual quality. And you can get quality only if people who work for you are satisfied. These days, Disney wishes to make as much content as possible. As fast as possible too. Wish certainly needed more time and could benefit from being pushed to the next year, but Disney wished to celebrate their anniversary, so the movie had to be released this year, no matter the quality. We certainly don't need a new Disney cartoon each year if that hurts the quality. Another thing besides quality and reception is box office. The reason why cartoons fail at the box office recently is the combination of mediocrity and Disney Plus. Why watch a mediocre movie in the theater when you can watch it a couple of months later, practically for free at home, assuming you are subscribed to Disney Plus? If Disney wishes to bring the audience back to theaters, they need to start making great movies worth watching in theaters again. Something truly amazing. This is the only way. Elemental was good, so the word of mouth helped it gross almost $500 million. People could watch it at home, but they wish to see it in theaters because good stories are worth it. Also, what is up with Disney's budgets? How can Wish cost $200 million? It looks pretty cheap compared to all the other films in similar style. For comparison, Mutant Mayhem cost $70 million, while The Last Wish cost $90 million. At the end of the day, pursuing pure quantity and disregarding quality will inevitably lead to collapse, sooner or later. And Disney is experiencing it right now. I can only wish that they will draw right conclusions and we'll see great Disney animation again.